Hi, I'm Janet from One Sister. Thank you for joining me today as I continue to teach you about my crazy piecing technique. In video 1, we talked about the stacking, and in video 2, we talked about the cutting and the shuffling. Today we're going to go ahead and we're going to start discussing the piecing. So now it's going to go back together 1 to 2 and then you add 3 for each section. 1 to 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So let's take a look at A1, and we're ready to sew A1 to A2, and you look along the seam line and there is no dot. So that means I'm just going to flip A2 onto A1, and you just center it point to point and you stitch that 1/4 inch seam. We're going to take a look at A3 over here. Again, there is no dot on either end. You center it point to point, sew the seam, and press them out. And yes, you do get extra on both ends, but that is okay. So A1 is it. So section A is all pieced. So now we're going to move on to section B. We're going to look along the seam line. There's no dot here, but here we have a dot. So that means that when you sew B1 to B2, I would like you to keep this edge straight. In order to get it to be straight, you need a little dog ear. So and it's always hard to determine how much of a dog ear. So at that Y, where those two fabrics come together in that little Y intersection, that's where your needle needs to go in and have a 1/4 inch seam, so that when you press it out, it's nice and straight. Let me get a couple pieces over here and show you what happens if I were to have too large of a dog ear. So you can see here is the Y, and in order for that to be straight, you'd have to have way too big of a seam. But if we sew this with a 1/4 inch seam, or approximately, see how much of that start point is going to get trimmed off when you press it out. So that is what those dots are about. It's to help you keep your edges straight so that you won't be trimming so much fabric off. Okay, so now we have B, and here is C1 to C2. Again, here's your dot, so this is straight. And then we're ready, so we've got 1 to 2, and now we're ready to add piece 3. And again, here's the dots, so you see we're keeping this whole edge, inside edge, straight. But we've got this little bit down here that's sticking out, so we can go ahead and take that off. You just put your ruler down until you run out of fabric. So we're not going to cut the gold. So the ruler's lined up with the gold. We're not going to cut that. And you notice that the edge that you are cutting off is parallel to your ruler, so that's all just seam allowance. So you can cut that off and then flip it right sides together, and here's your dog ear up here, and sew that. Okay, so then that one's done. So we've got that one pieced, and then we'll do the same thing up at D. We've got D1 to D2. Here's your dog ear, or your dot, so it's nice and straight. You've got your D, and then we're going to do the same thing. Lay your ruler on here, cut this little piece off, and then D3, here's your dot, put your dog ear there, and it'll be nice and straight. So we've got all 4 sections pieced, A, B, C, and D, and then we're ready to start putting your sections together, A to B, then add C, then add D. So to do that, I want you to, this is the step where you do have to straighten. So we're going to straighten, since we're sewing this seam, we're going to straighten this edge of A and this edge of B. And you just put your ruler on here till you run out of fabric. So here it's with this gold, and again you're going to just trim this red off, and it's parallel to the ruler, so that's what gets cut off here. And even though this looks straight, I want you to put your ruler on and see there is just a little bit that has to come off. So then I'm going to ask you in the directions to match this star seam. So that looks like this. So here I've put them right sides together. I've peeked down in there, and if I missed, I just slide one piece to the over so that the seams match, put a pin in it, and sew it. So that's what this one looks like. And we're ready to sew to add C. So we have A, B. This edge I've straightened, but we do need to straighten this. You'll put your ruler on here till you run out of fabric. I can never say which one's gonna be, so it's this one. And then everything else is roughly parallel. That's not quite, but everything, the edges are parallel to your ruler. You're gonna cut that off. This one I've already straightened. And when you sew this, you just center your legs over this middle. The seams don't necessarily match. And then you'll put your ruler on here. You'll straighten till you run out. So everything is parallel to your ruler that you're cutting off. And then D I've straightened, and this one just gets centered, and you split the difference on the seams over the middle, and that's all there is to it. So then you are you can continue on to your next star, and that is all you need to know about the dog ears. Thank you so much for joining me again today.